Welcome to Corks and Conversation with Emilya Naymark.
Her book, Behind the Lie, which I have right here, love
And it's
this
behind
book.
me.
Yes, was so good. It's her follow-up novel. It's the second in a series, and it's such a great read.
I know. I can't wait to talk to her about just about everything.
I agree. So let's get into it. But first, let me tell you a little bit more about Amelia before we get started talking with her. She is the author of the novels Hide in Place and Behind the Lie, as well as numerous short stories. She was born in a country that no longer exists. I'm very curious about that.
Hmm.
She escaped with her parents, lived in Italy for a bit, and ended up in New York, which promptly became a love and a muse, which should be New York's tagline, by the way, I think. Um, she has a particular fascination with psychological thrillers, crime, and suspense, all the dark stuff, just like us, and that's what she
Hmm.
writes. When not writing, Amelia works as a visual artist and reads massive quantities of psychological thrillers, suspense, and crime fiction. She lives in the Hudson Valley with her family. I'm going to read you a very particularly good impression of her work from Publishers Weekly. It's a starred review. It says Naymark hits the rhythms of small town life perfectly and maintains tension by alternating perspectives. Lisa Unger fans will have to want to take a look.
Yes,
So,
yes. And we
Amelia,
like
it's
we
so
are
nice.
Lisa Unger fans
We
too.
love Lisa Unger. She's been on the show. So, Amelia, it's very nice to have you with us today. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes, I know.
Yay.
So, we took a little detour because right now we always talk about the wine, but today we are not drinking a wine. Well, actually, Kathy's drinking a
I
wine
am.
still.
I'm
She'll
gonna,
tell you about that.
yeah.
But we are drinking. Amelia had turned us on to this refreshing beer, which is Pilsner Urquell,
Yeah,
maybe?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And so let's have a sip because she said it's very refreshing.
It's a perfect summer. It's a perfect summer beer.
Mm.
Mm.
I love your big mug
I do
too.
I
too.
know. You have to drink. You have to drink your pilsner out of a liter, a half liter.
Okay.
Thing, you know.
I
You
think
know what this
Amelia knows her
reminds me
beer.
of? Like, it does remind me of like a cafe in like Europe or something. Because
That's
it must
where.
be very
Yes.
common beer over there
Oh,
too.
it's like
Because,
the best thing to drink it while you sit at a cafe and
Oh,
have a
so
yeah.
little basket of something ready.
where's it made?
It's in the Czech Republic.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. Here
So
is.
it
Oh, what a
says it's
beautiful.
the same brewing in the same brewery using the same recipe for over 175 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Today, we still use traditional methods like triple decoction and parallel brewing in wooden lagering barrels. No idea what that means, but it sounded like how we talk about wines.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's
Mm,
tasty. Good
thank you.
choice. Thank you.
I'm glad you
I
enjoyed
And
am.
it.
Kathy, you're
I'm kind of
you're sticking with
jealous.
wine.
I am sick of wine. I could not get that in my little local area, but I went with a red blend from California. It's one of the naked wines. Christy and I have just recently started ordering wine from nakedwines.com. And this one is called Wine with Heart, Daryl Rex Groom DRG. And it is very nice. So we're all having
Okay.
very nice drinks today for
Yes.
this great
Yes.
conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get started in some questions.
I'm excited. So let's talk a little bit for everybody who's new to the series. Let's talk about the series a little bit so they kind of know what we're talking about. So um, this is number 2, Behind the Lie.
Which I do like this cover. We always
Oh,
talk about
yeah.
the covers
I
and how
love the
cool they
cover.
are, and I don't know. This one's cool too. I love all the reflection and
Yeah, I do too. And um, it's funny because it's blurb. The front cover is blurred by Hank Philippi Ryan. But I was gonna say that this reminds me of Hank's covers, kind of. It just
Yeah.
has that. Yeah.
I thought so too. When I saw it, and I thought, you know what? It can't hurt.
Can't go
right.
wrong.
Can't go wrong with
Can't go wrong.
She's doing
So
pretty good with her covers. So.
yeah, yeah, that's not a bad career to emulate.
No.
So this series deals with a former New York NYPD detective, Lainey Bird, who turned into a small town PI. She had kind of a bad situation in New York, and transitioned her life along with her son, who needed a change. He's got some challenges, up to a small town. And she's turned into a PI, which I absolutely love that premise. So in this book, this is the second, as we said, there's a neighborhood block party, right? Which I just thought was a great premise. And I want to ask you about that because I know you mentioned in the acknowledgments that you kind of were saying thanks to all your neighbors for the block party, but
Yeah.
none of them are in this
Yeah, I
book.
want to hear about her block parties after this book.
Yeah.
I was like reassuring them they were not in here.
Yeah, so the block party turns out poorly. And there's some
At least for some people.
for some people, right. And so then it turns into this very exciting and suspense-filled race to figure out what's going on, protect her family, protect yourself. It's a great read. So, and that doesn't give anything away, right?
Nope, you didn't give anything away.
No, thank you. For the awesome description.
And I don't tend to follow Christie's notes that she writes so carefully. I'm so sorry, Christy, but I'm glad I did a good job.
No.
So I loved that this, there's so much I want to talk to you about, but the first thing that struck me was a couple of the characters, Step and Vera, are from Russia and Ukraine. And I would love to get your thoughts about your characters being from the place where the world is completely focused its attention on right now.
Yeah, who knew, right?
I mean, it's probably great timing as far as your book birthday a couple months ago, but just horrible to see what's happening in the news. So what are your thoughts about that?
About what's happening in the news?
That and how it ended up being so similar to what's going on in your book.
Yeah.
As characters.
So the country that no longer exists that I was born in is the Soviet Union. And when I was born there and I grew up in it a little bit, I was a child when we left. Ukraine was part of it. So it was not its own country. And I'm going to say that most Russians still think that way, including Putin. But as far as they're concerned, it's just, it's like Florida. The Ukraine is where you go for your summer vacation. You know what I mean? It's where your grandparents live, and you live in
It is like
Moscow. What?
It is
And
like
Florida is a little bit like a different country sometimes, right?
Exactly. So when I write, I can't get away from that culture. And both in the first book and in the second book, my baddies are Russian, and that's because the culture lends itself so easily to crime that I go there, and even in my short stories, I end up having my like off-page mob criminal types be Russians, just because I feel like it's what they are. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting that you say that. That is.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So when you lived in the Soviet Union, like what part of the Soviet Union did you live in?
Yeah. So I was born in Moscow, but my family is Jewish. So the Russians are incredibly, not only are they anti-Semitic, they're like incredibly just racist all around. So when I say that, like when I think of Russians behaving badly and the Russian culture lending itself well to crime, I literally mean the Russians. I don't mean, because there's such a separation in like if you were born there, there's a really big separation between a self knowledge of yourself as either you're either a Russian ethnically, or you're a Jewish person ethnically, or you're like Georgian. So there's this incredible separation everywhere, and So
Wow.
yeah, so that's so. But having said that, Ukrainian is kind of Russian because, like I said, they kind of think culturally that the Russian culture kind of came from there to begin with. As actually did my family back in the day. But okay, we're having a little history.
Yeah.
And it's
But
fine.
like, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Anyways,
how old were you when you left
so
the Soviet Union?
I was 8 when we
Oh,
left, and
wow.
it took a while because you couldn't just like get on a plane and come to America. You had to, because we were refugees, and we had to go and we were stateless. We did not belong to any country for a while, and we kind of waited in Italy and lived in Italy until some country gave us an entry visa. And I mean, we could have ended up in Canada. We could have ended up in any number, like New Zealand, Australia, any place that. And I'm so lucky that I ended up in New York because I just think New York was the best place for me to end up. It was just perfect. So
Well,
There's New York's.
we're glad
advertising.
you're here too, and
Yeah.
and amazingly, we're really glad, but amazed that you've written in English when your first language wasn't English. I mean, that's
yeah, I made a really concentrated effort when I came here as a child to fully speak English and lose the accent. I don't think I completely lost the accent. I mostly lost it, but
it's a
yeah,
little
it
bit. You
comes
know
out when
what?
I'm
I'm
tired.
in Florida, so it could
Yeah.
be a New York accent to
Could
me,
be
you know.
it actually I do actually have a pronounced New York accent.
There it was. I heard it. When you said pronounced, I heard it. Well, I really appreciate your sharing your feelings on and your background and history about. I've been reading and trying to learn as much as I can, as I think most Americans are. But when you describe the relationship between Russians and Ukrainians and US, that's so incredibly nuanced, more nuanced than I ever can imagine. And so that's so valuable.
It is it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I have to say, when I was writing it in my mind, I guess being, culturally Russian back in the day, in my mind, the Ukraine is kind of Russian. So there, even though my characters, one is Russian and one is Ukrainian, in my mind they're kind of the same because
Right.
that's
Wow.
how.
And honestly,
Yeah.
it probably would have not. I wouldn't have noticed
Yeah.
them as different either, as an American and as a reader, except for what's going on in the news now.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my goodness, look, here we have
But,
it.
like,
But also, like, I had to do a lot of math when I was doing it because I wanted to make sure that they were born. Like, when were they born? Were they born when it broke up? Before, like, I had to like go through all that. So
that's really interesting.
yeah.
The only thing I have possible to compare to your experience is that I was able to visit East Berlin the year before the wall came down in Germany.
Me too.
And
I was there the year
you're
before.
kidding.
No.
Yeah.
How
It'd be cool if you
crazy
guys
is
were
Did
both
you-
having Pilsners.
Did you go through Checkpoint Charlie?
that? Yes.
Yeah, I did
Yes.
too. And it was for me, it was an extraordinarily vivid experience. I was only 16 at the time, but it was such a remarkable visit.
I agree because, by that time I had lived in, I was an American citizen at that point already. I was 18 or 19, something like that. And you go from like the full color and the everything of West Berlin.
Right,
And then all
vibrancy. Berlin is so vibrant.
Yeah.
And then it's just gray.
Just great. And you had to exchange, you were forced to exchange like so many marks, right?
Yeah, like 10 Deutschmark, or I have no idea what it was.
Yeah.
And there was nothing to spend it on.
Yes, exactly. And when I bought, like, I'm like, okay, let's eat. So we ate, and like, okay, we still have a ton of this. And then like, let's get a drink. And then we still had a ton. I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy some books. And then I still had a ton of them. And then I'm like, And as we were leaving, I'm like, we still have all. I'm like, let's just give it to somebody. So we like came up to a young woman. We're like, here, we have all these marks. Why don't you take them? We can't take them out of here. And there's nothing to spend them on. And she's like, no, I'm trying to get rid of my own. I'm also a tourist.
Because their valuation, Christy, was so incredibly off.
Mhm.
And
What year was that? Do you remember what year it was?
I feel like it was, well,
1985, I think, for me, or 1980.
oh, no, because we were there like literally like right
yeah.
beforehand. So it was 89.
89 then?
I think
Yeah.
89 is when the
89.
wall came down and we were there in the
Oh,
summer.
okay.
Like
That's
the
so
summer
crazy.
before it went down, you know.
Okay.
Because I
well,
was
that
I was in Europe like around that time too, but I was in France, so I did travel to Germany, but I didn't go to Berlin. So.
Okay, so let's get back to your book. And we're so glad, and by the way,
Yes.
anybody who's sick of the news and sick of Russians are baddies in Emilya's book. So that will make you feel good. You should buy the book and get that out.
It's so entertaining. It's a really good book.
So
I
entertaining.
mean, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so glad it was entertaining to write. So I'm glad that came through.
Oh, it is. I mean, it's truly a definition of a page turner. You're like, I really need to get some sleep, but yet I want to read more.
Mhm.
I love how your book, a lot of it is just family. It keeps coming back to family for me. That was my takeaway. Was that intentional? Am I off base, or is that where you were wanting to go?
No, you're completely on target because I feel that family is really, I guess, family is the thing that drives, I think, pretty much most adults in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mhm.
you either want to, if you're a mother, you want to protect your children, for example. If you're a child, maybe you want to get away from your parents, you know, or your siblings. Family is just like the thing that is the most core part.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to evoke any kind of emotion in the reader, you go to family and there's going to be some kind of emotion there. So and I kind of wanted to write about just women and what it's like to kind of be a modern woman in the first world right now. I mean, we have a lot of conveniences. We have a lot of things that help us in our lives. But there's also so much pressure, you know, there's pressure to have,
Mhm.
you know, if not a career, a job, because most households can't be sustained on one income. And then you've got kids, and most families will have more than one. And so you can't, you're just, it's insane. And the younger the kids are, the more crazy it is. And I've seen women who try to do it and they do it, but it's like, I remember, you know, going to a little league game with my son, and there was a friend of mine, and she had three kids. So her son was on there, and like two others were like, she was there,
Running
but she had
around.
to take them somewhere else. And she had a full-time, you know, high-powered job, and she just had this like Kubrick stare, you know, like the daddy's home here from The Shining, you know, Jack Nicholson. She just had that look.
Johnny. Yeah.
Yeah, that. She had that. And I'm like, that's what
it.
it's like. So I kind of like, I love writing about that. I love writing about, because it's not just that there's the pressures from that outside. There's like an internal pressure, because obviously we all want to be the best moms and really good wives, and we want to be rewarded at our jobs and be good at our job, and it's impossible. So I gave all the women in my book these impossible goals, and every one of them fails.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is refreshing, frankly,
Yeah.
instead of having them be like, I've got it all under control, because
No,
it's
Right.
because they don't have anything.
But I
under
did like
control.
that about Lainey, that she had issues, family issues, vulnerabilities, but at the same time, she was able to she did pretty good job at not letting, she was able to be professional. Like, we always see for some reason, women always completely fail at one or the other. She was just struggling at both, but she was able to keep it together, I think, better than most of them.
Well, because to me that felt realistic, you know.
Yes,
I wanted to portray what to me felt a realistic relationship that she would might have with her kid.
right. Yep, it was good.
Oh, so good. Okay. I think this would be a perfect time to get to the question in a bottle,
Oh.
or in this case, in a Pilsner. We should have a question in the Pilsner, Christy.
Hey, it comes in a bottle as well.
Amelia, this is a question that you might get to at the end of a round of drinking.
Oh, okay.
So it is, oh, this is good. What is the weirdest food combination you enjoy?
Oh boy.
She's
Well,
got a lot of different cultures to draw from.
no,
too,
I know,
so-
but what I'm gonna say is, to me it's not weird, but I know it's weird to others because I did it at a party once, and everybody around me got really quiet, and then like pointed at me, and they were like, "Look what she's doing." I put mustard on my corn. I mean, for some reason,
Oh.
people thought it was weird, but
Oh, that is weird.
I have
I'm gonna
not
say that's
seen that
weird.
one before.
what? So instead
It
of
sounds
butter,
good to me because I really like mustard, but
I
I
love
so
think-
like
too,
corn
but
on the
corn?
cob,
Like corn
Yeah,
on
so
the
like-
cob?
corn and cob, and I just put like mustard on it, and it was very tasty.
Do you
I
put butter and mustard or just
no,
mustard?
no, just the mustard.
Okay, I'm gonna
any
try that
particular
next
kind of mustard, like Dijon or spicy or
I like the spicier, the better. Like if it had
Mhm.
horseradish in it, that would be like.
Oh my
"Ah."
gosh.
that does sound good though.
It actually, see, I'm not there yet, but I'm gonna try it. I am, because we love, I'm in the middle of the Midwest, so corn on the cob here is a staple for months. I'm gonna delve into
Try
this.
it at least
I
one
am,
time,
I am.
right?
Okay, Christy, what would yours be? I'm curious. Since you made me
okay.
eat alligator last time I was there, I'm kind of curious
Oh
what you
yeah, but that's normal down here.
would say.
Well, there was at one time I tried and liked a peanut butter, American cheese, and pickle sandwich.
That sounds pretty good.
For some reason, that combination was good. I don't know
Were you
why.
pregnant?
No. It was like I was young. It was like an old boyfriend that did it. He was like,
Oh.
"Oh, this is it." I was like, "This is pretty good."
Yeah, that's not
For
bad.
reasons,
weird.
I guess it's the salt or whatever. But I also do like to have soup for breakfast, and that turns
Oh.
people off a lot. But I love soup for breakfast.
Hot soup or like cold soup?
Hot soup,
Hot soup.
like any kind of soup, but mostly like, you know, chicken broth based soup.
I was at your house when you served us soup for breakfast, and
I didn't serve it to you, did I?
Well, we
I
made it.
probably
I don't know.
asked you.
But I found it to be very comforting. I thought it was
Yeah.
a very comforting little not much different than like a
You
warm
know,
oatmeal.
in Japan, like miso soup is pretty
Yeah.
common for breakfast and stuff. And I would like that too. It's not like usually the heavy soups. It's more like, I don't know. It's my old chicken soup Polish background, I guess.
And was that after a night of drinking?
Yeah, you know what? That
That's
actually would
probably,
be
you know,
good.
no. I mean, any day I like it for breakfast, but I like it for every meal. I love soup. Kathy, what about you? What's your weird thing?
The first thing that came to my mind is that, and I think this is kind of a thing, I'm not alone. I like the combination of sweet and salty ice cream, like McDonald's ice cream, and French fries. Like dip
Oh, that's
the
good.
French fry in the ice cream.
I have heard of that before.
It's very good. Yeah. That's, I mean, that's,
Ooh.
I
Okay.
like, I mean, I love food. There's not much I don't like, and I'm willing to try almost anything. So I was like, I'll just try all of it.
Yep,
Okay,
sounds good.
let's get
Okay.
back to,
Questions.
yes, questions.
Yes, I want to ask you about your day job because you are a web developer, an illustrator, and which are very creative endeavors. And do you still have this day job? Do you still do that?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have it. But I work from home, so you can see my setup.
Very
Okay.
clean.
My
Well, that was my other question. I was like, working from home even before the pandemic, right?
Yeah, yeah. I've been working from home for about 9 years, which was my goal for so long. I
Mm.
wanted, that's what I wanted, because a lot of in my field, a lot of the work you you do most of it, like 95% of it, in front of a screen. And when you meet,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now you can have meetings, via Zoom
Right.
very easily.
Zoom.
But even before that, you could have Teams, Microsoft Teams, or Google Meets, or phone calls. I
Yeah.
mean, it was just like not really necessary for me to be physically present, you
So
know.
how did you
So,
become a writer?
so I just, I kind of, it felt like the most creative thing I could do is to be a writer. And
Mm.
I needed that creative outlet, that ultimately being a designer is a lot of fun, and coding is actually very creative as well. But it's not, like writing is a very different thing. Writing, like reading transports you, but writing transports you times 1,000, so that's
Mm-hmm.
what I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And once I started doing it, I thought, well, I just kept setting goals, like, well, can I publish a short story? Okay, I can. Can I write a novel? And then eventually, like, yes. So that was.
And how did you set up your day? Because, I mean, just I think a lot of people during the pandemic have found out what it's like to have to work at home and keep yourself motivated. But then there's so many writers that were like, well, I get home from work and then I start writing. Well, how do you turn off one job and then say, okay, now it's time to write? I mean,
Yeah,
that
that's a
seems
good
hard.
question. It's a good question. I do need an interval because it all happens in the same space. So, I when I stop work, there's usually like a 2 hour, maybe even a 3 hour interval where I go for a walk, we have dinner, we watch TV series. When my son was younger, there was always like driving him around and doing things. And when that was
Less-
done,
yeah.
nobody needed me anymore for anything. That's when the laptop came out, and
I'm
and then
Wow.
I,
curious.
and
So
then
you're a nighttime
I'm
writer.
a night
Oh, you're a
person.
night writer.
Yeah.
I also work from home and I work on my day job and write in my same office. And I've often thought, I mean, I love my office, I love the space, but I've often wished I had a separate writing space because I'm very, work is my priority when I'm in this room. And sometimes I have a hard time transitioning in the same room. Do you have that at all?
Oh yeah, I actually very rarely write in this room
Okay.
for that reason, because I associate it with other things. But that's the beauty of having a laptop,
Yes,
so.
it is.
So there's lots of times I'll write in the living room while my family's watching TV. I just have like these like noise canceling headphones, like the kind you wear when you mow the lawn.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
then I'm with them. I'm physically around them, which is nice, but I'm in my world. So
Wow, that's impressive focus
Yeah.
that you can have external stuff, your family and maybe TV on and still be able to focus. That's really impressive.
I
yeah,
think it's like, going to like a coffee shop
yeah,
or
Oh
that's what
yeah,
like,
it's like.
Brad Parks would be in a restaurant or something, fast food, and you can tune it out,
yeah.
for whatever
Exactly,
reason. I don't know why. I guess because same way when you read, you can tune things out. You just,
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
interesting.
it's
So
true.
are there more of the books coming in the same series? Are you working on something else? What's happening next?
So I would love for there to be another book, but I'm not sure yet. So
Okay. Very fair answer.
yeah.
Okay, so before we go, we have one final question, Christy.
Oh, yes, of course. Of course.
That's your cue, Christy.
Yes, yes. Okay. So if we ask all the authors this, okay. So which of your characters would you like to share a meal with, and what would it be? We've talked a lot
Um,
about food already, so it's interesting.
Yeah.
uh, interesting. So I actually know that you ask your authors because I've been listening.
Oh,
Um,
thanks.
and my first thought was going to be Lainey because I kind of based her a little bit on my husband. So she has a lot of his personality traits. You know, she's very down to earth. She likes beer. So I know we'd be drinking beer. And she has a sense of humor that I enjoy. But like if I went out to dinner with her, we'd be having like pub food.
Mhm.
So if like a meal is more important, I'm thinking I might go with Vera and Step
Oh,
because they're gonna cook me something I'm gonna really enjoy. And
Yeah, they do. They
they're
were like sort of gourmet cookish
yeah,
type
they
people,
are.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
that's a brilliant decision. Food over the person.
yeah.
I'm all
Well,
about
it
that.
depends. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
that.
you could probably like slip into some Russian
Well, that's the thing.
language. Yeah.
We could talk about things, and they're very glamorous. So it would be kind of a
Hmm.
glamorous evening. You know.
Kind of fun.
Oh
That
man,
sounds
I
kind of
picture
fun.
them already from reading that book. Your book, they'll probably make a movie out of it. That would be a good one to make a movie
Yeah,
out of.
you know, one thing we didn't get to, but for your future readers who are going to listen to this podcast, your characters are so beautifully developed, and you just get such a sense of them, and it makes you just want to root for them or against them in some cases.
Right. Or find
Okay,
out
so
what the problem is. Okay.
yeah, so
So
our
anyway.
listeners are going to want to know more about you. What's the best way to reach out and learn about you?
Okay, so I have a website. It's emilyanaymark.com/author. And I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And it's my name, which is you're not gonna find anybody else with that name. So you just
No.
put my name in. Yeah. So you just put my name in and I'm there.
Sounds
Well,
great.
that's great. That's great. Well, this has been fun, and
It has.
I still have a little bit left, so we can do a
Yeah.
cheers.
Cheers to
Cheers.
you.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for visiting us.
I
Thank you
know.
so much. This was great.